Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about finding the distance between 2 points. So we can always use subtraction and absolute value to find the distance between any 2 points on a number line. So before I do an example, let me just quickly talk about what the absolute value of a number is, in case you don't know. The absolute value of a number technically means how far away the number is from 0. And the absolute value symbols are just 2 bars. So for example, if I wanted to find the absolute value of 3, I would ask myself, how far away from 0 is the number 3 on the number line? And obviously 3 is 1, 2, 3 spaces away from 0. So the absolute value of 3 is 3. And what if I wanted to find the absolute value of negative 3? What does that mean? That really means I'm asking myself, how far away is negative 3 from 0 on the number line? And just like positive 3, negative 3 is 1, 2, 3 spaces away from 0 on the number line. So the absolute value of negative 3 is also 3. So really, whenever you see absolute value symbols around a positive or a negative number, technically it means distance from 0, but you could most of the time just get away with thinking of it as make it positive. So if I have a number which is already positive and I take the absolute value of it, it's still positive. If I want to take the absolute value of a negative number, I would make it positive. Okay? But technically it means distance from 0. Now let's go ahead and, again, we're going to use subtraction and absolute value to find the distance between points on the number line. So what if I wanted to find the distance from the dog to the kangaroo? Well, I would get the position of the dog. The dog is at 5, so I would write down 5. And I would get the position of the kangaroo. The kangaroo is at 2, so I would write down 2. And then I would put a subtraction symbol between them. I'm going to subtract those numbers, and also absolute value. So the absolute value of 5 minus 2 equals the absolute value of 3, because 5 minus 2 is 3. So I just evaluated what was inside the absolute value bars. And the absolute value of 3, like we were talking about earlier, is just 3. So what is this 3 supposed to represent? It's supposed to represent the distance from the dog to the kangaroo on the number line. Well, is that true? Yeah, it is true. You can see that on the number line, the dog is 1, 2, 3 spaces away from the kangaroo. So this is a good answer here. All right. Now you also could have, actually, since we're taking the absolute value, the order that we subtract in does not matter. Now be careful. Normally, when you're doing subtraction, the operation, the order definitely matters. So if you reverse the numbers, you don't get the same answer. But since we're also taking the absolute value here, it doesn't matter. So I'll tell you what I mean right now. If instead of 5 minus 2, I did 2 minus 5, and I took the absolute value, well, let's see, 2 minus 5 is not 3, it's negative 3. But remember, I'm taking the absolute value of this, and when I take the absolute value of negative 3, I still get the same answer that I got before, 3, right? So when you're doing the subtraction to find the distance between 2 points, it doesn't matter what order you do the subtraction in, as long as you remember to take the absolute value in the end, because then everything is just becomes positive. Okay, now let's do one which is slightly harder. What's the distance from the cat to the mouse? So let's go ahead and find them. So here is the cat and here is the mouse. We're trying to figure out the distance between them. Now, we could count that easily on the number line. So the distance would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see that the distance from the cat to the mouse or from the mouse to the cat is 5 spaces. They're 5 spaces apart from each other. But let's just also see, I want you to understand that we could have also found that answer by using subtraction and absolute value. Now, how would we do that? We would just take the positions of both of these animals here. So let's take the mouse first. It doesn't really matter. The mouse is at -3. Okay, you're going to see this works with negative numbers also. So we have negative numbers here. And the cat is at -8. All right, now I'm not done. I still have to put a subtraction symbol between them. Remember, this symbol here in this context does not represent subtraction. It represents the fact that this is a -8. The cat is at -8 on the number line. So I still need to put a subtraction symbol between them. And then I will also take the absolute value of this expression. And let's work out what that is. Now I'm just going to evaluate this in the normal way. So I can rewrite minus negative as positive. So now I would have -3 plus 8. Okay, all I did was I used the rewriting rules, and a minus negative becomes plus. And then my first number is negative here, so I'm going to use the adding and subtracting rules, which tells me that different symbols I should subtract. So 8 minus 3 is 5. And I take the symbol in front of the larger number. The larger number here was 8. The symbol in front of it was the plus symbol, okay? Which means that over here, so the -3 plus 8 is a positive 5. Okay, and when I take the absolute value of positive 5, it's still positive. So the absolute value of 5 is 5. All right, which is exactly the same answer that we got over here. Let me do it again in pink because I was writing in pink before. Okay, the distance from the mouse to the cat, or the cat to the mouse, is 5 spaces. Okay, let's go ahead and do the last one. By the way, we would have gotten the same answer if we had done it the other way around. Let me just do that very quickly for you. So if I had done -8 minus -3, then that is equal to the absolute value of -8 plus 3. -8 plus 3 is going to give me -5. And then when I take the absolute value of -5, again, I get positive 5. So, actually, before I do the last one, I should talk about why we're using absolute value here. The reason we're using absolute value is because when we talk about distance, nobody ever talks about distance with negative numbers, right? So, if I say, what's the distance between the marker and the pen? I might say, well, the distance between the marker and the pen is 6 inches, right? They're 6 inches apart. Nobody would ever say the distance from the marker to the pen is -6 inches. Okay, so we just don't talk with negative numbers when we're talking about the distance between two things, okay? And it's the same thing here. Even though the cat and the mouse are both in negative territory, when we talk about the distance between them, we would just say that they're 5 units apart. We wouldn't say that they're -5 units apart. So that's why we're using absolute value here, because we always want to give our distances as positive numbers. Okay? So let me just do the last example. What is the distance from the mouse to the kangaroo? Let me get rid of this. All right, so the distance from the mouse to the kangaroo. Well, we can see the answer quickly, even before we do the math over here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we should get the distance from the mouse to the kangaroo as 5 units. Let's see if we do. So the mouse is at -3, the kangaroo is at +2, and then I need to put a subtraction symbol between these two numbers and take the absolute value. So that's going to give me, let's see, -3 minus 2 is -5. Okay, so I'm remembering the rule, same symbols, add and keep the symbol. So 3 plus 2 is 5, and the symbol here was the negative symbol. But I still have to take the absolute value, so I have to copy these absolute value bars. And the absolute value of -5, well, actually we did that before. The absolute value of -5 is +5. Okay, so this is telling us that the distance from the cat to the kangaroo, or from the kangaroo, not the cat, the mouse to the kangaroo, or the distance from the kangaroo to the mouse is 5 units. So they're 5 units apart. And just for completeness sake, I'll show you, we could have done it the other way. I could have started with the kangaroo, who's at 2, and then put the mouse, who's at -3, but then put a subtraction symbol between them, then take the absolute value. So this is going to give me 2 minus -3 is the same thing as 2 plus 3, so I'm just using the rewriting rules. So I would get 2 plus 3, and 2 plus 3 is 5. So now I have the absolute value of 5, which is still just 5, right? Okay, so either way I do it, I'm going to get the same answer because I'm taking the absolute value. If I didn't take the absolute value, then one would be negative and one would be positive. All right? So the lesson here is actually pretty simple. If I want to find the distance between 2 points on a number line, I just write down where they are on the number line, and I put a subtraction symbol between them, and then I take the absolute value. That'll give me the distance between the two. Okay? Have a great night.